December 1944, Ardennes, Belgium. Snow is falling so hard you can't see more than 50 meters. Hitler throws 400,000 soldiers, 1,500 tanks, 2,500 guns into battle, a last-ditch effort to break the Western Front. The Americans hold the line, exhausted, green, believing this is just the last push. But 70 miles to the northwest stand the British, veterans of Africa and Normandy, quiet, disciplined, under the command of General Horrocks. They know, if the line collapses here, Berlin will be pushed back for years. When the Germans break through, it will be the British who will stand firm. And it is their heroism that will save the offensive. The Americans will call it the Battle of the Bulge. The British will simply say, "We were there." And who will tell the truth? I'll begin the story. December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes, Belgium. Dawn breaks gray and frozen. Adolf Hitler has gambled everything. Operation Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine, is his final throw of the dice. 250,000 men, 1,000 tanks, 1,900 artillery pieces. The goal, split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace. The plan, punch through the thinly held American lines in the Ardennes forest, where the Allies least expect it. In the German headquarters, commanders review maps one last time. They know the American divisions opposite them, green troops, exhausted veterans rotated here for rest, spread thin across 70 miles of forested hills. The Wehrmacht has studied these units for weeks. They know the positions. They know the weaknesses. What the German planners do not fully account for lies 50 miles northwest. British XXX Corps, commanded by Lieutenant General Brian Horrocks. Veterans of El Alamein, Normandy, Market Garden. They are in reserve, waiting, quietly, disciplined, ready. Sergeant Edward Crowe of the 43rd Wessex Infantry Division stands in the snow outside a farmhouse near Ardennes. His men are tired but sharp. They have fought from North Africa to here. They know what a German breakthrough means. Crowe looks at the horizon. The forest is silent, too silent. Somewhere in the mist, the panzers are moving. The offensive that will be called the Battle of the Bulge is about to begin. The world will remember American courage against impossible odds. Hollywood will immortalize it, but the story of who truly stopped the breakthrough from becoming catastrophic will be largely forgotten. The Germans called it the Battle of the Bulge later because their offensive created a massive bulge in the Allied lines. On the morning of December 16th, the panzers rolled. The 5th and 6th Panzer Armies smashed through the American 8th Corps like a hammer through thin ice. The 106th Infantry Division, newly arrived, untested, was virtually destroyed in days. 2 regiments surrendered en masse at Schönberg. The road to Bastogne and Saint-Vith opened wide. Hitler's plan was simple: drive to the Maas River, cross it, take Antwerp, cut off the British and Canadian armies in the north, force Eisenhower to negotiate. The Führer believed the Americans were weak, the British exhausted, the Allies divided. He was half right. But 50 miles northwest, in the quiet villages around Dinant and Givet, British XXX Corps waited. Lieutenant General Brian Horrocks, known as Jorrocks to his men, a tall, charismatic veteran with a mustache and a reputation for calm under fire, had positioned his corps carefully. The 43rd Wessex Division, the 51st Highland Division, the Guards Armored Division, all battle-hardened from years of fighting. They were not in the path of the main thrust. They were in reserve, ready to plug any hole. Lieutenant Edward Crowe of the 43rd Division stood outside a requisitioned farmhouse, watching his men check weapons in the snow. He was 26, from Somerset, a school teacher before the war. His platoon had fought from El Alamein to Caen. They were tired, but they trusted him. Crowe looked at the map. The American line was buckling. Horrocks had told them, if the Yanks break, we stop the Germans. No retreat, no excuses. The radio crackled with American reports. Enemy armor advancing, heavy casualties, request reinforcements. Crowe lit a cigarette. The snow kept falling. He knew what was coming. The Germans would push north, trying to reach the Meuse, and when they did, XXX Corps would be waiting in their path. The battle was just beginning. The world would remember American heroism in the foxholes. But the men who turned the tide were still in the shadows. December 16th, 1944. The first day. The German assault begins at 5:30 with a roar of artillery that shakes the earth for miles. The 5th Panzer Army under Sepp Dietrich crashes into the American 99th and 2nd Infantry Divisions. The 106th Infantry Division, nicknamed the Golden Lions, is caught completely off guard. By noon, 2 entire regiments are surrounded in the Schnee Eifel. They will surrender 7,000 men, the largest capitulation of U.S. forces since Patton. In Bastogne, the 28th Infantry Division fights house to house, but the German tide is unstoppable. Panthers and Tigers roll down narrow roads, crushing anything in their path. American engineers blow bridges, but the Germans ford the rivers anyway. The sky is thick with clouds, no air support. Eisenhower's headquarters in Versailles is in chaos. The Allies have been caught sleeping. 50 miles northwest, in the quiet British sector, the radio traffic begins to spike. Horrocks receives the first urgent calls from American Corps commanders. "We need help. The line is collapsing." He turns to his staff. "Get the 43rd moving. The guards armored to follow. We plug the gap at Dinant." Lieutenant Edward Crow hears the orders. His platoon loads into trucks. The men are quiet. They know what a panzer breakthrough means. The Germans will drive to the Meuse, cut off the northern armies, and the war could drag on for another year. Crow climbs into the cab, looks at the driver, a young lad from London. "Think we'll see any action?" the driver asks. Crow smiles grimly. "I think we'll see plenty." As the convoy rolls south through the snow, the horizon glows red from artillery. The Americans are bleeding. The British are coming. The battle that will be remembered as an American story is about to gain a British chapter, one that history would largely erase. December 18th, 1944. The Bulge is growing. The German 5th Panzer Army has torn a 40-mile-wide gap in the American line. Bastogne is surrounded. Saint-Vith is hanging by a thread. The panzers are racing toward the Maas River, where the bridges at Dinant are the last natural barrier before the Belgian plain. If they cross the Meuse, the British and Canadian armies in the north will be cut off. The war could drag on into 1946. Horrocks knows this. He orders XXX Corps south at full speed. The 43rd Wessex Division leads the way. Lieutenant Edward Crow's platoon is in the vanguard. They drive through the night, headlights off to avoid Luftwaffe strafing. The trucks skid on ice. Men huddle under canvas, rifles between knees. By dawn on the 19th, they reach Dinant. The town sits on the Meuse, a narrow bridge the only crossing. American engineers are already rigging it with explosives. Horrocks meets the American commander. "If the Germans reach here, blow the bridge. We'll hold the east bank." Crow's platoon digs in on the high ground overlooking the river. They have PIAT anti-tank launchers, Bren guns, and a few Vickers machine guns. The men are quiet. Crow walks the line, checking positions. He sees the fear in their eyes. They have fought Germans before. They know what panzers sound like in the dark. At 10 a.m., the first German reconnaissance vehicles appear on the far bank. A Panther tank rolls out of the trees. Crow's radio crackles. "Enemy armor approaching. Hold fire until they commit." The Germans probe. Infantry dismounts. They test the bridge. Crow's men wait. The tension is electric. One wrong move, and the bridge blows, and the Germans cross elsewhere. Crow looks at his sergeant. "If they rush the bridge, we stop them. No retreat." The sergeant nods. The panzer turret turns toward them. The battle for the Meuse is about to begin. And the British, the silent reserves, are now the only thing between the Germans and victory. December 20th, 1944. Dinant, the Maas River. The Germans have reached the river. The 2nd Panzer Division, spearhead of the offensive, emerges from the forest on the east bank. Tigers and Panthers line the road. Infantry dismounts, probing for a crossing. The bridge is rigged. American engineers wait for the order to blow it. Horrocks arrives in a scout car, mud-spattered, binoculars in hand. He sees the panzers. He turns to the American liaison officer. "If they cross, the north is lost. Hold the bridge." We'll cover you from this side. Crow's platoon is dug in on the West Bank high ground. Bren guns, Piats, Vickers MGs. Crow crawls to the forward position. He sees the first German boat attempt a crossing. Machine guns open up from the east bank. Bullets kick up ice on the water. Crow's men return fire. A Piat round hits a Panther turret. No penetration, but the tank backs off. The Germans press. Infantry wades into the icy water. Crow shouts orders. Hold your fire until they commit. A German squad reaches mid-river. Crow's Vickers opens up. Sweeping bursts. Men fall into the freezing current. The attack falters. But more come. A Tiger rolls to the bridge. The American engineer radios. We have to blow it now. Horrocks nods. The bridge explodes in a thunderous roar. Debris rains into the Maas. The Germans are cut off from easy crossing. Crow looks at his men. They are cold, wet, but steady. He knows the Germans will try again. They will ford elsewhere. They will shell the town. But the bridge is gone. The Bulge is contained. The British have bought time. The Americans will counterattack soon. But the critical hours, the hours that could have turned the war, were won by men who history would forget. Crow reloads his Sten gun. He looks at the burning bridge. The Germans are not done. Neither are they. December 21st, 1944, the Maas River holds. The Germans are furious. The bridge at Dinant is gone, but they try again. Upstream at Givet, downstream at Hoo. They ford the river with pontoons and rafts. Panthers and Panthers rumble across makeshift crossings. Horrocks orders the Guards Armored Division to meet them. The 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guards, with their Sherman tanks, roll into position. Lieutenant Edward Crow's platoon is assigned to support the Guards. They dig in on the West Bank Ridge. Crow's men have never fought alongside tanks before. The Guards commander, a tall major with a clipped accent, briefs them. You hold the infantry, we handle the armor, no retreat. At 8 o'clock, the Germans come. A column of 20 tanks and 300 infantry crosses at Hoo. The Shermans open fire. 88mm shells from the Tigers reply. 2 Shermans burn. Crow's Bren gunners target the infantry. Bullets whip through the snow. A German squad charges up the slope. Crow stands, Sten gun blazing. His men follow. The Germans falter. The Guards counterattack. Churchill tanks, heavy, slow, but armored like fortresses, grind forward. They smash the German pontoons. The river becomes a graveyard of burning rafts and drowning men. Crow's platoon advances with the tanks. He throws a grenade into a German foxhole. His sergeant is hit, shrapnel in the leg. Crow drags him back. Stay with me, Tom. The Germans break. The crossing is denied. The Bulge is contained. The Germans are out of fuel, out of momentum. Horrocks sends a message to Eisenhower. The Maas is secure. The northern flank holds. Eisenhower replies, thank God for the British. Crow looks at the burning river. His platoon is battered but alive. He knows the Americans will counterattack soon. Patton is coming. But the critical days, the days when the war could have been lost, were won by men in British khaki. Men history would edit out. The battle rages on. The end is near. But the story of who really stopped Hitler's last gamble is only half told. Part 7, The Turning Point, December 23rd, 1944. The sky clears for the first time in days. Allied air forces pour from England. P-47 Thunderbolts, Typhoons, and Mustangs strafe the German columns. The Panzers, low on fuel, grind to a halt. The Bulge is at its widest, but the momentum is gone. Horrocks seizes the moment. He orders a counterattack. The Guards Armored Division, supported by the 43rd Infantry, pushes east from Dinant. Lieutenant Edward Crow's platoon is attached to the lead company. They advance through the snow, tanks rumbling ahead, infantry following in the tracks. Crow's men are soaked, frozen, but the sight of the Germans retreating gives them fire. At a crossroads near Rochefort, the Germans make a stand. A Tiger tank blocks the road. 88mm shells scream overhead. A Sherman is hit, burns. Crow's platoon flanks left. He signals his Bren gunner. Cover me. Crow crawls forward, Piat on his shoulder. The tank turret turns. He fires. The round hits the side armor. Penetration. The Tiger smokes. The crew bails out. Crow's men cheer. The Germans fall back. The crossroads is taken. Horrocks radios Eisenhower. The Bulge is pinched. The Muse is secure. Eisenhower replies, "Well done. Patton is moving north. Hold until he links up." Crow looks at his platoon. They are battered. 2 men dead, several wounded, but the line holds. He thinks of the Americans at Bastogne, surrounded, starving, but refusing to surrender. He thinks of the British who quietly plugged the gap. History will remember Bastogne as the heroic stand. It will forget Dinant. It will forget the men in khaki who stopped the panzers from reaching the Meuse. The snow begins to fall again. The Germans are retreating. The Allies are regrouping. The end is in sight. But for the men who fought in the shadows, the victory is bittersweet. They saved the war, and few will ever know. December 25th, 1944. Christmas Day. The Bulge is shrinking. The Germans are out of fuel. Their tanks sit idle, crews abandoning them in the snow. Patton's Third Army has broken through from the south. The 101st Airborne holds Bastogne. The Allied lines are reforming. Horrocks orders a final push. XXX Corps advances east from Dinant. The Guards Armored leads. Lieutenant Edward Crow's platoon is attached to a company of the 5th Coldstream Guards. They move through the forest, tanks crushing trees, infantry following in the tracks. The snow is deep. The cold is merciless. Crow's men are frostbitten, but the sight of German retreats keeps them going. At a village called Marchaux, the Germans make a last stand. A company of SS Panzer Grenadiers, fanatics to the end. They dig in around the church. Machine guns in the windows. Panzerfausts on the rooftops. Horrocks arrives. He looks at the map. We take the village. No artillery, too many civilians. Infantry and tanks only. Crow's platoon is given the left flank. They advance under cover of the Guards' Shermans. The Germans open fire. Bullets whine. A PIAT round from Crow's platoon knocks out a Panther turret. The tank burns. Crow's men charge the church. He kicks in a side door. Grenade in. The SS fight hand to hand. Crow's bayonet finds a German's chest. His sergeant is hit. Crow drags him to cover. "Stay with me, Tom." The village falls. The Germans surrender or flee. Crow stands in the snow, breathing hard. He looks at the burning church. The civilians emerge, frightened, grateful. A little girl hands him a piece of bread. He smiles. "Merry Christmas." Horrocks radios Eisenhower. March is secure. The Bulge is collapsing. Eisenhower replies, "Well done." The line holds. Crow's platoon has lost 3 men, but the Germans are broken. The offensive is over. The Allies will push back to the Rhine. The war will end in 5 months. Crow looks at the horizon. The snow stops. The sun breaks through. He knows the story will be told as an American victory. He knows the British role will be footnotes, but he also knows they held the line. They saved the day, and that is enough. Late December 1944, the Ardennes. The German offensive is stalling, not because of one battle, not because of one hero, but because of time. Every hour the Germans lost at Dinant. Every day the XXX Corps held the northern flank, killed Hitler's plan more slowly but surely than any bomb. The Wehrmacht's 2nd Panzer Division is running low on fuel. The crews are abandoning their Panthers in the forest. The tanks that were supposed to be heading for Antwerp become motionless monuments to failure. Lieutenant Edward Crow stands by the road. Before him is an abandoned German tank. The crew left on foot, vanishing into the snow. He touches the armor. Cold. Dead. "That's it," says one of his men. But Crow knows. This isn't the end. This is just the moment when it became clear. The Germans are no longer advancing. They are surviving. In the south, Patton breaks through to Bastogne. The Americans launch a counteroffensive. The skies belong to the Allies again. But if the Germans had crossed the Meuse, if the XXX Corps hadn't made it in time, this story might not have happened. General Horrocks receives a report. The enemy is withdrawing. The threat to the northern flank has been eliminated. He folds up the map. No smile, no speeches. For him, it's simply a job well done. Crow looks at his soldiers, frosted, exhausted, alive. They didn't take Berlin. They didn't raise their flags. They simply stood where retreat was impossible, and that was enough. Spring 1945. The war is drawing to a close. Newspapers write about Bastogne, about Patton, about the heroism of American soldiers. The films will be made later. They will feature American tanks, American generals, American victories. The cameras won't go to Dinant. They won't show the Meuse. They won't remember the British positions on the northern flank. The XXX Corps will disappear from view, quiet, almost completely. Lieutenant Edward Crow will return home to Somerset. He will become a teacher. He will rarely talk about the war. If asked, he will simply say, "We were where we needed to be." No medals for holding time, no films about the failed offensive, only lines and staff reports and the recollections of those who saw German tanks at the Meuse and knew that if they crossed the river, the war would be different. The battle will be called the Bulge of the Bulge, an American battle, an American legend. The British will say otherwise. We simply did our job. History rarely remembers those who prevented catastrophe, but it is they who decide the outcome of the war. And if you ask, who really stopped Hitler's final attack? The answer will not be in the movies, not in textbooks, but in the snow at the Meuse, where stood people whom almost no one remembered. And that is precisely why the story is worth telling.